Hello and welcome aboard. The shipping industry accounts for around 2.2% of global carbon emissions, and this figure is expected to rise if left unaddressed. Therefore, the Nigerian maritime industry is not left out of this global campaign against carbon emissions. On today's program, we shall be looking at the recent summit on shipping decarbonization held in Abuja. Relax as we bring you details after the break.
For more than 5 decades, we have empowered and protected the interests of shippers in the nation's maritime industry. Our focus is to facilitate trade, regulate tariffs and rates, as well as handle shippers' complaints on cargo losses, damage and non-delivery. We offer dispute resolution mechanism for shipping and trade disputes between shippers and service providers. We are Nigerian Shippers Council, Nigeria's port economic regulator, your gateway to a thriving maritime sector. Nigerian Shippers Council will meet you at the port of your need.
Welcome back. This is The Shipper, your flagship program on television, proudly brought to you by Nigerian Shippers Council, the nation's port economic regulator. I am Victoria Yavala. The Nigerian maritime sector has joined in the global campaign against carbon emissions in an effort to adhere strictly to the International Maritime Organization's directive to actualize green shipping in maritime nations. The report is compiled by our correspondent Susan Shalhoma and presented by Lucy Yambi.
Agencies in the maritime sector and captains of industry were in Abuja recently for the first Africa Strategic Summit on Shipping Decarbonization. The summit, organized by the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy in collaboration with University College London, UCL, Energy Institute and Bartlett School of Energy and Environmental Resources, deliberated on the enhancement of Africa's voice in shipping, as well as debating International Maritime Organization (IMO) policies that promote fair labor conditions and sustainable maritime practices. It focused on the need for African countries to leverage their renewable energy potentials to become global leaders in green shipping. Addressing the gathering, the Honorable Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, His Excellency Adegboyega Oyetola, CON, called on maritime stakeholders and African continents to strengthen their technical capacities to support effective climate action.
You may wish to note that the time for Africa to take the helm of its maritime future is now. We must shift from being passive recipients of global policies that do not reflect in our peculiar circumstances. Let us commit to a common vision, one where the African nations are at the forefront of maritime decarbonization by leveraging on the transition to foster economic resilience, job creation, and social development of our continent. As we celebrate, I urge each of us to think boldly, act decisively, and collaborate strategically. Together, we can shape an African maritime future that is greener, more inclusive, more prosperous, and more importantly, likely on our own collective terms.
The Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administrative and Safety Agency, NMASA, Dr. Dayo Mubirola, describes shipping decarbonization as a measure of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the shipping industry, this being a significant contributor to global warming.
These environmental concerns arising from the emissions have created a sense of urgency, driving the world to focus on shipping decarbonization, and Africa must not be left behind. Decarbonization supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly SDGs 13, Climate Action. This African Strategy Summit has brought together experts, regulators, stakeholders to discuss best practices, share knowledge, and exchange experiences that will ensure a just and equitable shipping decarbonization in Africa by promoting sustainable maritime development.
The Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Chief Uche Naji, expressed the ministry's commitment to meeting zero emissions through renewable energy, technical innovations, and sustainable resources management.
Nigeria is committed to achieving net zero emission by 2060 through renewable energy adoption, technological innovation, and sustainable resource management, reflecting core aspects of President Tinubu's 8-point agenda. In line with these goals, our ministry proudly supports initiatives such as the landmark hydrogen police, green hydrogen project, placing Nigeria at the forefront of global renewable energy leadership. Specifically, the production of 1.2 million metric tons per year of green methanol provides a clean, sustainable fuel alternative for the maritime industry, directly reducing emissions and enhancing our global climate leadership.
Principal investigator of the LEAP project, Dr. Dola Uluteye, said that the African maritime sector is a veritable tool and instrument in the shaping of the future of international shipping decarbonization.
Decarbonization presents an opportunity. Africa has an abundance of renewable energy resource, solar, wind, green hydrogen, as we heard by the previous speakers, which can position the continent as a future hub for zero carbon shipping fuels. Investing in green maritime infrastructure now could create jobs, attract financing, and build long-term economic resilience.
The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who was represented by a director in the ministry, Mr. Okpeoluwa John, said the ministry is making concerted efforts to curtail the release of carbon emissions by manufacturing companies under its purview.
Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has the statutory mandate to oversee the manufacturing landscape of Nigeria's economy. Therefore, ensuring reduction in carbon footprint in the manufacturing sector is a priority. In order to ensure a robust framework is put in place in achieving this mandate, the ministry is making efforts to integrate prevailing issues such as renewable energy, circular economy, energy efficiency, and carbon capture in the Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan.
The Director, Regulatory Services Department, Mrs. Margaret Ogbonna, who represented the Executive Secretary and CEO, Nigerian Shippers Council, Dr. Akuta Pius, MON, wants African countries to be proactive in meeting the aspirations of the IMO's shipping decarbonization efforts.
The first summit is taking place in Nigeria, and the Nigerian Maritime Authority is geared toward driving it. You could see there was presentation from Maritime Administration of Africa. So they're already working together, mapping out strategies to adopt to ensure that the whole African nation participates fully and not to sit behind the scene. They want to be a voice and negotiate at the right time and not to act after negotiations have taken place. So Nigeria is prepared. That's why they're taking this initiative to have this summit.
In his submission, the Director, Inland Transport Services of Nigerian Shippers Council, Mr. Mustafa Zubiru, described the gathering as a positive initiative and a good strategic move to prepare Nigeria and other African countries for the task ahead.
Shipping is a major contributor to carbon emission, and African countries are also more or less victim of this. So there has to this is a very important initiative that will enable Nigeria and other African countries to contribute and to have a say in the process of getting solution to this important problem.
Mr. Celestine Akujobi, Director, Consumer Affairs Department, lauded the initiative by the organizers of the program, adding that Nigeria should not be left behind in the campaign against decarbonization.
Shipping decarbonization is just an IMO initiative of
reduction of greenhouse gases, which we call GHGs, in shipping because of the consequential effects of greenhouse gases on the environment. So today's event is a good one. In the developed world, it has been there, but for us here, it's an initiative that we are just embracing. And we are saying that Africa cannot be left behind, in the issue of greenhouse gas emission in a maritime environment.
Alternative Permanent Representative of Liberia to IMO, Mr. Harry Conway, made a presentation at the summit.
The ultimate goal for that reduction is by 2050, hopefully, this is what people want. People want shipping to be as clean as possible, what we call green shipping, clean fuels, no more polluting the environment. That will be the ultimate goal. That's why we are working. Now, and as Sister Dola said, Africa needs to be at the table. What does this strategy say? What's the ambition for this strategy? By 2030, which is not far away, we want to reduce CO2 emission by 20 to 30% by that year across international shipping. By 2040, we want to strive for 70% to 80%. And hopefully, by 2050, that ultimate goal that I just showed you, we want to show that we have green shipping, either zero or net zero CO2 emission for international shipping.
Other participants also spoke on the program.
The major takeaway is to know that it's going to be a difficult transition for Africa. There are a lot of competing elements that need attention and must be taken care of before we are sure of where we are going on this. There's been a lot of talk there about collaboration, capacity building. Of course, the enormous resources we have needs to be developed. We don't have the technology. We need the skill. We don't have the vessels, the finance. There's just a whole lot that must be taken care of before we can smoothly transit with others. Africa should come together, form a strong front to tackle all these things, in their different regions and come out stronger. Together, we are better.
Africa has a say in the matter. Globally, we are relevant and we are part of the action. So we shouldn't lay back. We should make our voice to be known and consider our own advantage in the whole scenario. And one thing is that decarbonization is good and is a very key part. But Africa should learn to develop at their own pace. We shouldn't allow anybody to rush us because, after all, talking about decarbonization and climate change generally, Africa is contributing minimally. The contribution of Africa is negligible. Developed countries are the culprits. So Africans are not the culprits. So because of that, we shouldn't abandon our own source of economy because we want to make it right.
Shipping decarbonization will require a collaborative effort from industry stakeholders, government, and regulatory bodies to develop and implement effective solutions.
Nigeria, through the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, will continue to make ports environment friendly for users and providers of shipping and port services. Let's now hand over to Idowu Ogungbemi for our tidbit segments.
Hello and welcome to the tidbit segment on The Shipper. I am Idowu Ogungbemi, your guide to the latest trends, updates, and brief stories from the maritime world. Let's get started. Nigerian Shippers Council has announced a significant milestone, saving the federal government 31.1 billion naira between January and June 2024. This substantial saving was achieved through the automation of demurrage fee confirmation, representing a 400% improvement compared to the manual process used in 2023. According to the Executive Secretary and CEO, Dr. Akuta Pius Emohen, the automated system has streamlined the confirmation process, reduced the risk of excessive charges, and promoted a more balanced shipping cost structure. The NSE has developed a web-based platform, CRD Portal, with 6 major modules, including modules for shipping companies, vessel charterers, shippers, and authorized dealer banks. The NSE boss, who was represented at the meeting by the Director Regulatory Services Department, Mrs. Margaret Ogbonna, said the Nigerian Shippers Council and Central Bank of Nigeria are currently working out strategies to develop a standardized module for the Central Bank of Nigeria on the CRD portal and also integrates the confirmation of demurrage, freight rates and charter party payments, and the trade monitoring system. The integration, when completed, will allow seamless data collaboration between the NSE and CBN and mitigate undue pressure on Forex.
For ease of doing business in the confirmation process, Nigerian Shippers Council has automated the confirmation of reasonableness of demurrage, freight rate and charter party payments with the development of a web-based platform that is multifunctional with 6 major modules, viz. Nigerian Shippers Council module, where we handle our regulatory activities, the shipping company modules, vessel charterers through brokers module, shippers module, the commercial banks, the authorized dealer banks module. Hence, part of the objective of this meeting is to agree on the 6th module, which is a standardized model for CBN on the portal, and integrate the portal to trade monitoring system for data collaboration between the 2 agencies. The integration is expected to improve forex allocation efficiency for exports and curb excessive charges by vessel charterers and promote a balanced shipping cost structure that aligns with international best practices.
In another development, Nigerian Shippers Council has partnered with the Nigerian Customs Service for a workshop program on authorized economic operation AEO for the Council's operational officers. Speaking at the event, the Executive Secretary and CEO, Dr. Akuta Pius Emohen, represented by the Director, Consumer Affairs Department, Mr. Celestine Akujobi, harped on the importance of the AEO initiative in trading facilitation while encouraging the staff to utilize the opportunity given by the customs.
This program is a very important program to us in Shippers Council because in Shippers Council here, I will say that apart from all the services we render, all the things we perform, our key role is to ensure that cost of services are reduced and there's an increase in efficiency at our ports in order to help our ports equally compete with not just our neighbors here, but with every other port.
In our presentation, the technical lead of the team, Assistant Comptroller of Customs, Awa Inena, highlighted the objectives of the initiative, focusing on promoting compliance and boosting Nigeria's competitiveness in the global market.
An authorized economic operator is somebody we have seen to self-regulate himself. Self-regulate himself. You know, that means he's able to know what certification he needs, he's able to know what licenses he needs, he's able to understand standards, what standards to meet and keep that standards. And he has processes in place to maintain those standards. And so we are saying when we find this entity, this legal entity that self-regulates himself without government having to pursue them all the time, you have to have this, you don't have this, we're identifying too many gaps in your processes. When we find an entity that has been able to self-regulate themselves consistently over a period of time, and for AEO, typically maximum 5 years, consistently for that period of time, we say they're doing the job. There's no need for government to duplicate the process. Let's move their goods out of port. Because if they are checking themselves, then why do we need to check them again? You know, but then does it mean we just turn a complete blind eye to them? Instead, they move to premises and we send what we call the post-clearance audit. In doing that, we are saving costs of accumulating demurrage and other, unnecessary charges, delays, psychological costs, time costs, money costs. So that is, in brief, who an AEO is. He self-identifies his risk. He self-mitigates his risk. He has that strong internal corporate mechanism that self-identifies risk and has processes in place to mitigate those risks.
We encourage you to follow our social media pages at NG Shippers on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube for more of our latest updates, events, and information. Let's take a look at our complaint register for the week. Nigerian Shippers Council has received 3 ongoing complaints. These include issues with unresolved damaged container, claim for damaged container, bill of lading, and document handover fee charges. We encourage our stakeholders to visit our website at www.shipperscouncil.org shipascouncil.gov.ng for more information or to lodge their concerns. Now, let's switch our focus to the international maritime news. AD Ports Group recently announced preparing to receive 3 new state-of-the-art Panama cranes from Shanghai Heavy Industry Co. Limited, ordered for the group's new multipurpose cargo terminal in Safanga, Egypt, which is expected to be operational in the second half of 2026, under a 30-year concession agreement signed with the Red Sea Port Authority in 2023. The group will develop and operate a multipurpose terminal in Safanga Port. The Port Group is investing 193 million dirham in 3 ship-to-shore cranes and 6 hybrid rubber-tired gantry cranes for Naughton Port, Safanga Terminal. Similarly, Con Cranes continues to build on its strong sales momentum with Spanish port operators. It has secured a new order from CSP Iberian Valencia Terminal SAU for 7 hybrid rubber-tired gantry cranes. The order, placed in February 2025, is scheduled for delivery to the Port of Valencia in March 2026. These new cranes will add to the fleet of 11 Con Cranes hybrid RTGs already in operations at CSP Valencia's terminal in Valencia and Bilbao. This investment highlights CSP Valencia's commitment to reducing emissions. Con Cranes hybrid RTGs featuring advanced hybrid drive technology significantly cut fuel consumption and CO2 emissions compared to traditional diesel-powered RTGs. And that concludes this week's edition of Tidbits on the Shipper. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week with more insight from the maritime world.
More than 5 decades, we have empowered and protected the interests of shippers in the nation's maritime industry. Our focus is to facilitate trade, regulate tariffs and rates, as well as handle shippers' complaints on cargo losses, damage and non-delivery. We offer dispute resolution mechanism for shipping and trade disputes between shippers and service providers. We are Nigerian Shippers Council, Nigeria's port economic regulator, your gateway to a thriving maritime sector. Nigerian Shippers Council will meet you at the port of your need.
We have come to the end of today's episode of The Shipper. Do join us as usual next week for another interesting episode. Also stay connected with us via social media at NG Shippers for more updates. Till then, have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.